Welcome back to the Cumbie Show. We tell like it is, and we don't care how you feel. And wow, what a great couple of games. You might see my pups outside. But what a great couple of games so far in this playoffs. The Michigan, Alabama, Texas, Washington game, both games coming down to the last play of the game. Obviously, the Bama, Michigan went to overtime. The last play of the game to decide the Texas, Washington. Fantastic playoffs so far. Even without my dogs in it, this has been a fun playoff to watch. And it's funny that in my preview prediction, I got these completely wrong. I had Alabama and Texas winning to advance to the national championship. And even in that preview prediction, I said I could be wrong and we could be looking at a Michigan-Washington national championship. But nonetheless, these have been fantastic games. I loved watching every single second of them, except for the fact that Texas-Washington game, for me, who lives on the East Coast, didn't end until 1 o'clock in the morning, especially when I had work the next day. Absurd. Especially on a Monday. But nonetheless, let's just jump into it and go over these games real quick, kind of talk about them, recap them a little. But Bama, Michigan. Michigan wins 27-20, and Michigan did exactly what I said they needed to do in order to win. If they had any chance at winning, they needed to do exactly this, and they did exactly that. And that was get after Milroe, build off what Georgia did in the SEC championship, but do it with a little bit more aggression. In that SEC championship, Georgia didn't really go after Milroe too often. They were so worried about what Milroe could do with his legs that they basically sat back, in my opinion, played very soft defense. They sat back and said, well, you're going to have to beat us with your arm because we're not going to allow you to beat us with your legs. And Jalen Milroe did just enough to beat him. Where Michigan was like, no, we're going to come after you. You may pick up a couple first downs. You may run for a big explosive play. But we're going to come after you all night long, and we are going to make your night a living hell. That's exactly what Michigan did. They had 6 sacks on Milroe. They just dominated that offensive line. And what it did is that it constantly forced Jalen Milroe to think fast, constantly move, always be hurried, always be rushed. Even when they didn't actually sack him, they were still getting after him, causing pressure, causing him to throw off balance, causing him to throw off time, causing him to they were speeding the game up and forcing Jalen Milroe to make quick decisions. And you could tell that. You could see it all game long that when Michigan were getting after him, it forced Jalen Milroe to scramble and to think and make rush decisions. And that's exactly what I thought the key to the game was to do that. And they did exactly that. And this entire Michigan team, J.J. McCarthy and this entire Michigan team played really well and really sound, even being down to Bama. There was at one point where this game was like 17-7 or 17-10, something along those lines. And Michigan just stayed right in it. And they clawed their way back in, and they found a way to win in the end. Send it to overtime and win. The numbers for the quarterback, Jalen Milroe was 16 of 23 at 69.5 completion percentage. He had 116 passing yards, but here's the thing. I think this is what really affected him, and I think this is the reason why I said Michigan needs to do what they need to do. Jalen Milroe had 0 touchdowns. Now, he did also have 0 interceptions, but he had 0 passing touchdowns on the game. That's how you beat this Alabama team. J.J. McCarthy was 17 of 27 at 62.9 completion percentage, but he had 221 yards, almost double what Jalen Milroe had. And here's the thing, he had 3 passing touchdowns. And he was averaging 8.2 yards of completion. 3 passing touchdowns compared to Jalen Milroe's 0 passing touchdowns. And now, Michigan's running game wasn't anything to write home for. It wasn't special. They only had 130 yards on the night, but they did have a touchdown out of it. But they did just enough with running the ball to just let Bama know, hey, we can still run the ball too if we need to, in my opinion. And then Alabama's rushing yards, they had 172 on the night, 2 touchdowns out of that. So that was a kicker. That was the decision in the game, or the deciding factor in the game was that last play, and we'll get to it. But the deciding factor in this game was the ability of Michigan's defense to get after Milroe and force him into hurry-up situations, make him think, make him basically win the game. That is the complete opposite of what Georgia did, and where a lot of times Georgia just sat back and watched them. And this is what I said needed to happen. Bama had 2 field goals for the night, but I mean, that great game. And I want to talk about that last play. So game goes into overtime, 20-20. Michigan gets the ball first in overtime. They go down, they score. So it becomes, and they kick their extra point, 27-20. Now Alabama's in position where you have to score a touchdown and kick the extra point to keep the game, to send it into overtime. So they get the ball, they go down, they get to 1st and goal, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal. Now it is 4th and goal, and they are probably on the 4 or 5 yard line, sitting at 4th and goal. Last play, you have to score a touchdown in order to keep the game going. Michigan calls the timeout when they see the formation that Alabama lines up in. Then Alabama calls the timeout. And at this point, I'm just like, run the damn play. Run the damn play. So they do. And I want to see what y'all's opinion is, because I don't know. That was a horrible play call. If that was a designed play, that was the stupidest play call you could have called. You had like 8 to 9 guys lined up in the box for Michigan, and you run a design quarterback run up the middle? What? Like, if you're going to use Jalen Milroe's legs, let him get out in space. Send him to the outside. Do some kind of like play action pass. I don't know, but not that. Like, what was that? But I've also seen where some people think that the play from the start was a disaster. The snap was too low. Milroe took his eyes off the guys in front of him to look down to find the ball. By the time he found the ball, the play was kind of lost, and so he just had to tuck it and run. Maybe that's what it is. You hope that that's what it was, and they just didn't run that as a design call. But I will say another thing is that snapper, that center for Alabama, had a horrible game in this game. I mean, it was rough. There were multiple low snaps, multiple high snaps, multiple snaps off to the side where Milroe's having to grab the ball, and it just throws all the timing off. And if that's what it was, where it was a bad snap and it threw the timing of the playoff, talk about not being able to come at the worst possible time. But nonetheless, Michigan holds on to beat Bama 27-20. I think this is an instant classic. It was really fun to watch. 2 hard-hitting teams just duking it out, going into overtime, coming down to the last play of the game. You love to see it. Michigan moves on. They're going to be playing for a national championship. And I got to talk about this. Jermaine Burton. He got a ring with Georgia and a cramp with Alabama. Ain't that some shit? No, I'm just kidding. I hope that the kid's all right. I think it was just a cramp. But I lost all respect for Jermaine Burton when his antics, what he did after the SEC championship game. He was 4 receptions for 21 yards on the night. Want to talk about murder ball. But you murdered your own future by leaving Georgia. Now, don't get me wrong. I wish nothing but the best when players transfer out of Georgia. Because I understand that maybe you're not getting as much playing time as you want. Maybe you don't see a path for success through you with Georgia. Maybe you're the 3rd guy on the bench and you're never going to see. I get it. Transfer, go be great, go do you, make a career. I respect the hell out of it because I feel like that's a very tough decision to make. Like A.D. Mitchell, it's got to be tough. But at the end of the day, when you disrespect your former team and your players and your coaches and your fan base, now I get it. There are some nasty fans out there through every fan base. I'm sure he got a bunch of shit through social media. I understand all that. But his antics after the SEC championship game where he was flipping off and mocking the Georgia fans and doing little antics in front of his former teammates and coaches that he used to play for and he used to play with right beside, that's a complete disrespect and slap in the face. And that's what you get. Karma's a bitch. For murder ball, yeah, you murdered your own future. If you would have stuck with Georgia, you would have been the leading receiver all year, every single season, and you would have had you another championship ring, and probably a hell of a lot better stats going into the draft. But murder ball, bye-bye. That was funny. Moving on. Next game, because I would have went on a rant. Washington and Texas. Holy shit. Washington did everything in their power to give this game away in the last 5 minutes. Everything. But they win 37-31. Like I said, this game wasn't over for me until 1 o'clock in the morning. Right at 1 o'clock. Absolute ridiculous. Why are we having these games on a day that's not Saturday and going until 1 o'clock in the morning on a Monday night? This is college football. This isn't professional. This isn't baseball or hockey. This is college football. Please have these games on Saturday. But nonetheless, Washington wins 37-31. I mean, those last 5 minutes were hectic, fueled, crazy. Texas was coming back. Texas was coming back. They were doing everything they can. And it came down to the very last play. I think Texas was on their 15-yard line, driving down the field. If they score a touchdown and kick the extra point, they win the game. Quinn Ewers throws it to the side of the end zone and just over the reach, just couldn't get it, pull it in. For the receiver, he threw it out there too. But what a fun game to watch. Michael Penix Jr. is electric. He had 430 passing yards on the night. 430 passing yards, a 76.3 completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, and this man averaged 11.3 yards of completion. Holy hell, he is insanely good. And Quinn Ewers is also really good. I mean, he was 24 or 43. He was 55 completion percentage, 318 yards. He had a passing touchdowns, and he averaged about 7.4. I thought that was the difference. I thought in my preview prediction that this defense for Texas were going to be able to do just enough to kind of limit Michael Penix Jr., and boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, there were a couple times where Texas defense stepped up and did what they needed to do, but they also couldn't get it going on offense. Washington went out to a lead early, and then coming into the second half, I think they were tied going into the halftime, but coming out, they went down. They got on their first drive, got a touchdown, kicked the ball off, forced a turnover, went back down, kicked the field goal. So they were up 10-0. And about that time, you can kind of feel like, let's see. But Texas found a way to come back in. And like I said, it come down to that last play. Quinn Ewers, 4th and 10 to the end zone, incomplete pass. Washington walks off as winner. They're moving on to the Natty. We will have a Michigan-Washington National Championship. I will do a preview and prediction. But if you're a Texas fan, you gotta be happy about this. I understand it's heartbreaking. Trust me, I've been there as a Georgia fan. I've been there many times, 2012, 2018, or 2017. It sucks, even this year. But where y'all have been and the way that your future is trending, especially coming to the SEC, you got to be excited. You got to be excited for the future because y'all are trending in the right direction. Really good things happen this year. Y'all are I can sit here as a fan of college football, but not a fan of Texas, sit here and say, I believe Texas is back. Without hearing all the bullshit in the offseason, all the fans, oh, Texas is back, we're going 100-0. I can honestly sit here and say, yeah, I think Texas is back. I think y'all are going to be an immediate threat in the SEC next year. I think you're going to challenge Alabama, challenge Georgia, and it wouldn't shock me that if you see Texas in the SEC championship next year. That's how much I think Texas is back. I honestly think, quick preview, I think you're going to have a Texas-Georgia SEC championship game next year. So you got to be excited. I know this one sucks, and you're probably hating it right now, but you got to be excited moving for the future. You got Arch Manning at backup. You still got, I'm pretty sure Quinn Ewers is coming back. I don't know if he's officially said that he's coming back, but I don't see why he wouldn't. And that leads me to my other thing. How are we feeling about this Quinn Ewers versus Arch Manning competition? Because I've been seeing a lot online where people are like, oh, they want to see Arch Manning. They want to see Arch Manning. They want to see Arch Manning. While I get that, you got to stick with Quinn Ewers. Look what he has been able to do for your team this year. Get you where y'all have gotten. I mean, he is a really good quarterback with experience at a high level. He beat Alabama. He beat Oklahoma. Or, no, my bad. I take that back. He did not. But you get what I'm saying? Like, he went on the road and beat Alabama. And he came close to doing it last year if it wasn't for that injury. And who knows where y'all would be if he didn't go down. But I think you need to be very careful. If you're a Texas fan, I think you need to be very careful about pushing Arch Manning. Because you do not, first off, you do not want to put a young quarterback in a position too early. Because if they pick up bad habits, it can be a lot more difficult to learn bad habits than it is to just learn the correct habits. And Quinn Ewers has experience at the highest levels. Traveling on the road to Tuscaloosa, beating Alabama, winning the Pac-12 championship, playing for a playoff game. You cannot discredit that. You cannot take that away. And if Quinn Ewers decides to come back, and unless there's an injury, he needs to be your starting quarterback. Let Arch Manning go another year learning this system, getting completely comfortable, and taking it slow before you throw him in. I think you have to. I think if you are wanting Arch Manning, now don't get me wrong, I want to see Arch Manning too to see how it performs, but give it another year. Trust me. You do not want to throw him out there too early because, especially first year in the SEC, no. Traveling, I don't know if you have to travel on the road to Alabama or what, but you got to play Oklahoma, you got to play Texas A&M, you got to play Georgia, like you got to play a whole slate of SEC. You do not want a first-time starting quarterback to run through that gauntlet. Trust me, you don't. Keep Quinn Ewers if he decides to come back. But nonetheless, great fucking games. I loved every minute of it except for staying up too late. But we are going to have a Washington-Michigan national championship. Boy, is it going to be fun. I will do a preview and prediction of that game here the next, maybe tomorrow coming out, or even maybe later today. Looking forward to it. But on that, over and out.